Well, good morning, Mr. Community. Welcome to Stroke Genius Podcast Survivor Experience. I'm your host, Aaron Amla. 13 years ago, I survived a massive stroke, and 2 weeks later, was a coma, I survived a brain aneurysm. I got those first. But bottom line is there's hope. I got a guest today that I have known for quite a few years, and he's amazing man. Amazing. He's a true servant leader, which I am too. He serves the stroke community. He himself had a stroke, was the dean at a very prestigious university. Was the dean, had a stroke, could speak 2 words. Yes and no, if I remember right. We'll confirm that. But yes and no. His name is Tom Broussard. I'm telling you, he's known now as a stroke educator. So I'm going to bring him on the camera right now. Let me bring on. Well, good morning, Tom.
Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
I'm doing super good. Great to have a see you again, Tom.
Yeah, I know. I
Been
know.
a
It's been a while.
Yeah. You're known as a stroke educator. Give the audience tell me a little about you and what you've been through, where you were before stroke, where you were after stroke.
Yeah, sure. And I see Sherry is there too. So I've seen her for a long, long time. Probably as long as she's been in your audience. And of course, I've known Aaron for how many years have we known each other?
It's been a lot of years, Tom.
We are talking, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I mean, a long, long time. So I'm always glad to see you and be part of your audience for sure. Um, and the as you said, I had my first stroke 12 years ago, almost exactly 12 years ago, and had a stroke. At the time, I was an associate dean at a college outside of Boston. Fell down on the street and got the drug in time to keep my body working, but I lost my language and I could not read, write, or speak well. So that's really how it all started. And it took a couple of years to be able to have this conversation. Um, and just like Aaron, working hard to help other people with stroke and aphasia, as well as the healthy world who don't know anything about how the brain works because they never had their brain injured before, um, and helping them understand how the brain works for them, how we all learn, and how people who've had brain injuries got better, again, like me and Aaron and Chris, Sherry, and others, this thing called plasticity. And that really is how the brain works, and more people need to know more about it.
We're talking about the green room, and I've been serving the stroke community now for about 9 years, doing what I do. And all the injections and all the treatments, the herbs, and the supposed cure stroke, they're all BS. I'm sorry, people. They're all BS. There's only two real silver bullets for you, stroke survivor, that you need to immerse yourself in. Number one, neuroplasticity. I said Tom has been expert on that. Neuroplasticity and mindset. Two things that really are your only two silver bullets that really, really work. I guarantee it. Now, but I'm curious, Tom. I tell people in a blog, I'd ask this question first off, so I'm going to do it. Can a person rebuild their life after stroke?
And the answer is yes.
I mean, you're proof of that.
Well, as have others like you, Aaron. I understand. It's so interesting that so many of us are out in the world, uh, helping people, understanding about how the brain works, talking with other people. And of course, a large part of that is just being out here, letting them know this information, and letting people understand that all the other people who join your audience have the same kind of mindset. Um, and sadly, if they haven't been invited to come to your show, invited to go to all the other kinds of groups there are in the world, unfortunately, they're still at home and don't know how all this works. Um, hopefully, hopefully there are many, 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 many more people that have had brain injury and had the certain mindset, the motivation of doing anything successful in their life before their stroke. Um, and the way the brain works, which is a good thing, after your stroke, that motivation, that mindset is still there. Yes, it can be damaged, it can be definitely hurt. But again, because the way the brain arranges itself, a lot of those people find their way to find again the successful mindset that they had before the stroke, and then realize, oh, if I do these kinds of things, I can do it again after the stroke. And yes, you'll have some of the deficits, but working with those deficits, those deficits, of course, get better going forward. The truth is, I've known Aaron for, I'll say, at least 7 or 8 years. I know Aaron when we first met, and how both of us were having trouble, Aaron much more than me, with our language. And knowing Aaron for such a long time, then I get to see and I get to tell everybody, because it really takes so much time and you have to observe it over time, began to then even let people know that Aaron, as a good example, who I knew a long time ago, and I knew how hard it was back then. I really do. I was still in Florida, as you know, Aaron. Yeah, as he said, it takes plasticity, and that means knowing what this really is. Although, thank goodness, it's still there. It's inside of your body and your brain. But you need to know some of the rules of that and some of the principles of plasticity and mindset. But based on those two things, as Aaron says, those are the two silver bullets that is how we all get better. Again, as many of the people in the audience know about now because of his work.
Tom, it's funny. I was talking to you at the green room, and I think without proper mindset, before even understanding neuroplasticity, you've got to believe you can do it. You got to have the right positive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna beat this thing. I'm gonna make my work life worth something. And look at me and look at you. I mean, our life is worth something, and we're helping people all over the world. But I think mindset is critical. And then neuroplasticity is something that we're not taught about. And you actually, I want you have a vocabulary of 2 words, right? 2 words. Yeah. After your stroke, you're only able to say yes and no if I remember it.
Well, I could say a lot more than yes and no, and I could curse really well. um, the problem with me was that I was able to speak relatively well. It's just that the words didn't make sense, or the wrong words would appear. Um, and I didn't know that that was one of the issues. As we all know, when you have stroke and aphasia, we don't know what we don't know. So my first stage of recovery took 11 months of becoming aware of these deficits, because all the time I was speaking, all the time I was writing, because I did keep that diary, for the first 200 pages, I wrote almost every day for 11 months. Didn't realize yet that they didn't make any sense. So the words were spelled properly for the most part. There were some words that were misspelled, but the fact that I was writing thinking they looked fine, it wasn't until I became aware, meaning while writing again at 11 months, and for the first time I felt a click in my head, and I looked at my earlier post entries, pointed at them on that day and pointed and said, "Oh my God, who wrote that?" Is I thought, and I knew it was my handwriting, but it was the first time that I could now see the difference between right and wrong, what was good and what was bad. And as fast as I could, I wrote 15 more pages telling the world that I can now see with new eyes at a new altitude. This is quotes off of my diary, a new altitude that I can now see that I couldn't see before. So that was just the first stage, becoming aware of my deficits, as opposed to being unaware of your deficits. Well, if you're unaware, what do you know? You're saying things that make sense, don't make sense, writing that don't make sense. So once I knew, then I also began to understand what plasticity was, because plasticity requires a lot more thought and cognitive activities, meaning you have to be able to read, write, speak, exercise, move your body, because this particular facility, meaning it's a skill basically that we all have of plasticity, it grows new brain matter. Because when you've had these brain injury, you've lost millions and millions of cells, brain cells, neurons. They're gone and they're never going to come back. But the remaining cells, because it's not a disease, it's an insult, it's a hit. The remaining cells have that capacity to grow new branches and leaves. Metaphorically, these are dendrites and synapses, but they grow new dendrites and synapses so they can connect and relearn. That's how we rewire the brain. People talk about that all the time, but that's what's happening. These are the cells, good cells, and in order to communicate, they have to be connected. They can't just sit here. They have to be connected. And it takes time to grow these fibers and become more than just one, to then be able to express and communicate when you couldn't express it before. And it, again, takes time, much more than even the best therapist in the world. And I had good insurance. I thought I did. And I got 30 sessions for half an hour each. That's 15 hours of therapy. 15 hours of therapy, plus I went to a group for another 20 some hours. So about 50 hours of therapy, formal therapy, not yet realizing that it takes thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of therapy. But if somebody helps you and are told this, therapy isn't anything more nor less than just a lot of learning, a lot of study, a lot of effort about how to do these things. As bad as they were, you have to keep working on that. That's why you come back to Aaron's mindset need. But yeah, it takes tens of thousands of hours.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a neuroplasticity expert on my show for Colorado a few weeks ago. And he said repetition is the language of the brain. I thought it was great, and I've heard it said that way. That repetition, repeating of something over and over again, is the language of the brain. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. The 10 principles, excuse me, the 10 principles of plasticity is one of those 10 principles is repetition. Because if you were making a rut with a shovel and or driving a truck over a field, the more you go over the same place, the deeper it gets. So if you're cutting something, or you're driving over something, or you're walking a million people, walking for 1,000,000 miles in the Sink Road out in Europe, the more you do this, the more it gets deeper and deeper into the earth. The same thing happens in the brain. The more you think, the more you consider, the more you have the effort that goes into a word you can't pronounce, so you have to keep working on it. It continues to be engraved into the brain. And again, that's where plasticity comes from, because all those cells, basically, they take the instructions of you on the outside. So the more you do that on the inside, the cells go, oh, so we like what you're doing. It feels good to us. These are the cells talking to you. It likes what you're doing. We will gather more of our friends and make it a lot easier to do this the next time. So that's how it's happening. Even in this presentation, we are talking, and the more we talk about this issue, the more people go home and go, oh, I, I didn't really realize that if I just keep working on some of these very same things, it will continue to be engraved into the brain, and all those other cells will make it an easier path for you tomorrow than yesterday because you've done it so many times.
Wow, what a great analogy. I don't think if I'm known that's a newer analogy because I don't think that going over and over in the same place and feel making the trial for the rut is the same way neuroplasticity works in the brain. The more and more we do the same thing and repeat the process again and again, the deeper the rut gets, and that is narrow pathway. So that was a great analogy. I want to pause a minute and say we got the Kim. I want to give a shout out to Kim. Kim is a wife of a stroke survivor who now has aphasia, and she is deemed like cope with that. And I keep perceiving out the Kim. We got Sherry Patterson out there. She has expressive aphasia. She has, I guess there's multiple different types of aphasia. She has expressive aphasia. Okay, yeah. Kim, I'm gonna pull up that this. And you see that Kim is saying she is about getting her husband to focus on the mindset to being positive and repeating what she's doing, more repeating some words. He's nothing but he's in that frustrated, dark place. And I think, Kim, everybody, one of us, Tom included, went through some point of being discouraged of how we were after stroke, no doubt. The darkness and the separation from you were to where you are now after stroke is the chasm seems you can't cross it, but the reality is you can, but it has to start with mindset. And Tom and I were talking about that earlier in the green room. You must believe you can do it. You must get in the tractor and go in the field. But the first thing you do is get in the tractor, and that is mindset. So you really cannot change someone's mindset. It's something that they have to learn themselves. So can be patient, keep flooding your husband with positive influence and getting a mindset change first. Once he believes it can get better, he will. Then the plasticity will take place. But tell me, no. I mean, people don't know. You were a dean in a college, correct? You're a dean in a university.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I appreciate the comment from Kim. The one of the things that happened with me, again, I'm sure it happened with Aaron, and I'm sure that what he is urged you, Kim, to consider with your husband is your husband has been successful in his life for sure, right? He married you. I mean, these things happen with life. So one of the things I think that Aaron is describing is that people are discouraged, sometimes very, very, very difficult for a long, long time. But one of the things, of course, is helping people learn what they had learned before. What do they remember? What made them feel good when they were young? Whatever it was that made them successful. So he graduated from from high school. Maybe he went to college, got a good job, a new skill, a new activity. Whatever that was, you have to urge him to consider to do that again, whatever it was. Um, I used to read a lot when I was young, when I was really young, um, and after the stroke, and that was a habit. That's a habit. That's what repetition is all about. Um, and nobody told me, "Oh, Tom, go back and do what you used to do." Um, but the habit of who we were before um, is, if we find that what turns out to be a habit, but find out what made us successful before, and then start to use that again. So I know after my stroke, I really didn't know how this would work. I didn't know that what I turned out doing was, one, accidental, and two, highly therapeutic. Um, and that's what typically happens, because you're only with formal therapy people for a little bit, and then it's still up to you and to people like Aaron, being able to have a platform um, to find what you used to do it again. If it, whatever it is, sports, music, uh, you name it, but find what you liked and do that more and more and more. Not the words themselves, but the feeling that he used to have, and that allows him to become more successful in whatever direction he's going. But that successful um, activity turns out to be highly therapeutic. So just literally converting, I mentioned it earlier, thought and cognitive activity. So you have to be focused and thinking hard. When you think hard about one thing or another, that is therapeutic, because the brain is built that way. That's the way it works. It's like roots on the earth. You just put the right fuel, right, to the plants, and they grow roots. You have to do the same thing with these people to create these experiences, and it's the experiences themselves. So it didn't matter to me that I was writing so badly for 11 months. What happened really was that I was writing badly. That turns out to be very therapeutic and eventually very good, no matter how bad it was. It's the activities themselves, this kind of energy that is converted into, based on plasticity, converted into new brain matter. So again, that's us blabbering. Eventually, it's up to you and your husband for sure to be thinking about this and consider doing whatever was good and use that good again.
Tom, you want to rephrase that a little bit because I want to reinforce that. Find something, and it can be, I mean, it's me difficult. Your husband just had a stroke, and he's in a darker place where he's unmotivated. But because I guarantee you that I picture a stroke like this. It's like driving a car. You can't drive the car, always look at the rearview mirror, crash. But what happens is, I know from my own experience, is that you begin to look back. I used to be able to do this. You begin to not, you begin to go backward. You drive the car with the rearview mirror, always looking back at your life. But what Tom is saying, I want all the community and all the audience members that watch us now live or after this on YouTube. Find something that you spurred that emotion in that you loved to used to do. For me, it was other things, but yeah, I found something emotional. I love to help. I love to be doing. I was a salesman before, so I love to get out in front of people. I had no problem with it. Okay, I'm gonna, but you guys can find with your husband something that he emotionally is attached to, because emotion with action will create neuroplasticity. Gosh, guys, great comments. All right, Sherry has a question for us. I'm going to have to stop. I told you 30 minutes ago, by quite warning this show probably go over time because we're having a good engagement. But I think Sherry wants to know, she has expressive aphasia. She wants to
Right,
know, Tom, will I
right.
get better? Can I get better from expressive aphasia?
Sure. Um, and and I'll also say good for Kim with the sign language. That's an interesting thing too. But back to Sherry, the fluent aphasia. Um, when we talk about plasticity, um, and this additional understanding is this thing called internalization. Internalization. So when you are reading, writing, speaking, I'll use speaking as a good example. Um, I I couldn't say the days of the week. I knew what they were and I could say them, but typically the I couldn't find today. Today is a Wednesday. I didn't know what today was without starting as Monday, because that was always the cue, right? Monday is their first day of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, oh, Wednesday, Wednesday. This is today. It's Wednesday. But I was saying all this out loud, right? The and saying it not fluently. Um, but the more I understood that it's always day, no matter what I need, let's say it's a Friday, I still had to go back and say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, Friday. Well, it starts on the outside, saying these things, doing these things, stumbling over these things, pissed off about these things. But the more you do it, even with the emotion, because now you're cursing, because I just can't get to what I want to say. But the more you say it, the more on the inside, instead of having to say, what day is today? Oh, today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Friday, Friday. But the more you do that, now we go back to cutting the brain in a certain way and tying things together. I started whispering, because instead of saying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I started, right, whispering. And then quickly, I didn't have to say the whole word. I go Wednesday, because it was whispering. Then it moves to the inside. This is the internalization component of plasticity, because it still requires a lot more effort to say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as opposed to, and then you stop saying it, because on the inside you go, because now you know it's Wednesday. And this is the internalization. And again, it takes a long time for those cells to grow new dendrites to begin to express on the inside what you are having a lot more work with and a lot more effort just to say those same words on the outside. So I am sure with fluency, again, I always use Aaron as a really good example, because I knew Aaron before he had a very difficult time being fluent, because just basically the more you do it, the more you do it.
Right.
Although often you're put into these situations where you're not really happy about this issue. So that, of course, is part of the issue, is you have to be okay with the fact that it really pisses you off. But even that's okay, because yeah, because everybody knows, the people around you and you, everybody knows that you didn't do this just to be a pain in the ass. It just happens to be what it is. But the more you do this, the more occurs, meaning the more. So I do hope that in your case, Sherry, fluency takes a long time. And I literally, over a couple of weeks, I know it's just for me a couple of weeks, when I began to go from saying it out loud to whispering to realizing, okay, on the inside, thinking my way through it, that means that I was growing more of these things to be able to whisper neurologically, right? A representation of a whisper. I didn't have to say it out loud. And I know that takes a long time. And I mean, as long as it needs, years, I'm sure. So
Well,
for all the,
Tom,
again, shit that I can provide you, it's still up
I
to
get
you.
it, Tate. I think it's really important for people to hear that you yourself, now mind you, Tom's written like, how many books have you written now? Five,
Five
I
books so
say
far.
five. Every book that Tom
5
has
books.
written is in the links and YouTube videos. There's links right there on purchase book. And they kind of go in sequence. So if you want to see what Tom is referring to as far as the diary goes, you could buy it. You could read it. You could see what he used to write like. And Sherry, I know Tom, Sherry gets very frustrated with her expressive aphasia. I was talking with her, helping to my sure this, but not much you can do about it. But anyway, she was extremely frustrated. Didn't even think she was in the Navy. She wished she was cussing, but she was so frustrated having aphasia. But you know, I guess I want to hear from Tom speak to Sherry and maybe others out there with aphasia. Just how much they can do it. Get the mindset, help them get the right mindset if you can, Tom.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. It is an interesting thing about the brain and about plasticity. Um, but the I used another metaphor. Most of my work has to do with metaphors. Has to do with a metaphor of a rocket ship, a three-stage rocket ship, where the first stage is is very physical. You know how the body works and how it's hurt on the inside, um, and that takes a long time for the body part of it to do what it needs to do to get rid of the inflammation, to get rid of the dead tissues that has to be re-involved into the brain. Um, and then the next stage is through formal therapy and hopefully pointing you in the right direction, because that's really all they can do. I mean, there's 10,000 hours, nobody can be paid 10,000 hours of therapy. It has to be up to the therapist, and they have to help orient all of us, meaning they need to tell us really upfront, and most often don't, what it really is going to take. And this thing about plasticity and the mindset is top of the line. You have to do these things. And often they don't really talk about that. I know with me, we finished and a great therapist. But really, at the end of the day, we got to the end and she said, well, that's
Mhm.
it. Bye. No plan. Again, even just somebody giving me a one-page plan maybe would have helped, but not even that. But that's the second stage, is at least hopefully get oriented, or use people like me and Aaron and many others to help. And your friends, just the friends that are on this in your audience, are all in a very helpful place to be able to help other people. And it's always therapeutic to be talking with each other and understanding what we are seeing versus what you are seeing. Um, but that's the second stage of the formal. And then the third stage is now up to all of us, where it goes for the rest of your life, with the tools you maybe now have, or you don't even know that you have these tools yet. Again, waiting till you hear from it or put into a situation where that skill happens to appear that they can now see and use going forward. And of course, groups. Those groups are highly therapeutic. I'm still involved with two stroke and aphasia groups. One for 11 years since my stroke started. Continue to do that in Boston, and the other one in Florida, with always a speech language pathology in the group. Not unlike Sherry's talking about the 5 years speech therapy. Of course, this is informal, but at least there's some there. They can help again steer, steer, you know, take your hands off the wheel. Well, somebody has to at least be able to continue to steer us forward. And that is also helpful because you get new people to appear, who maybe weren't as motivated as they otherwise would have been if somebody had said, hey, why don't you come with us and join us with this particular group, and get to see more about what other people have learned over time, be able to share that with people going forward.
Yeah, Tom, I can remember it, and I want Kim to hear this because there's a tool to show Kim that we stroke survivors go through. Therapy for me, Tom, I don't know about you, but I am half paralyzed, can't walk. I haven't walked for 13 years yet. But there is something happens with therapy as a stroke survivor that I experienced. And that's where therapy was a two-edged sword. It helped me physically, but also showed me how messed up I was. I didn't want you the wrong word, but if my therapy showed me how messed up I was, And that frustrated me. I was so frustrated with therapy, which was on me, but it also showed me how messed up I was. So be patient. With anybody out there struck with whether you're a stroke survivor or the wife of a survivor like him, if you see that frustration, like I think Tom might go back to something Tom said. Redirect them into something you get them engaged with, something you can get them excited about. Then that is when you see the change start occurring. You could force the you could try to force square peg in a round hole, but until you turn their mindset right, it's like being in a horse and water, but you can't make a drink the same. But I will say one thing. Remember Henry Ford said, what do you think you can and what do you think you can't? Both are correct. And it's really true. I
Right.
tell me that they think they can. That's why mindset is so critical. You gotta get stroke survivor in your life or you as stroke survivor to begin to say, like I did, maybe like Tom did, obviously, I can do this. I can. Then you become, it changes, your mindset changes, plasticity in your life. So,
It's true. And another thing that Henry Ford said, he said back then, you have any car you wanted as long as it's black. Because that was it. Back then, there was only black. And he actually said that you can have any color you want
that's
as long
right.
as it's black.
That's what well, it's we're already 10 minutes up. We went for 40 minutes and 30 minutes show. Tom, it's been first. How do people get in touch with you? Let's leave with this. How do people contact you and for advice or what?
Oh, sure. You have my email. You can put up on the screen if you want to. Everybody should get my email. Send me a note. I'll put you into my database, so you will get my twice a month articles and videos about aphasia and recovery and plasticity. My books are on my website, which again is strokeeducator.com, or aphasianation.org. Either place, you can get all the information plus get my books, and or just go to Amazon to get the books there too. So, but yes, definitely send me your email so I can put you in the database and you get more information. A new article and video went out this week about John Dewey and about plasticity. So,
Well, Tom, I'm going to encourage everybody. I'll make sure I'll link all the links to contact Tom are in the YouTube video. I'll go back over after the
mhm.
show and look at it and make sure in there. So if it's not in there, I'll definitely put them in there. But Tom, I cannot take enough that we needed to make this more known because I want to remind the two silver bullets. First, mindset. You've got to get stroke survivors to realize they can do it. And that's why you see me doing what I'm doing. Because I had a global business celebrity named Jeffrey Hazelwood change my mindset. Because I remember I used to lay in bed and say, I can't do anything and my life is over. But then he started telling me about attitude now, and he is a close friend of mine now. But this mindset is key to, and coupled their plasticity, you're unstoppable. So I encourage you guys to do it. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much. It's
It's
great to
so
see you
great to
again.
see you, Tom. I want to thank you again. Thank you, audience, for being out there. And if you can, if you have a fish, struggle with a fish, I highly recommend purchasing Tom's Bucks. His links are in to Amazon or in the video description. So please use those. But Tom, have a great day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody.
Bye.
Take care.